Welcome back to Hardball. After lobbing fact-free tweet bombs at Barack Obama over illegal wiretaps that never occurred and Guantanamo Bay prisoners that had nothing to do with Obama, the Trump administration got down to the tough task of legislating today. Today, President Trump dispatched his top officials to make the hard sell on behalf of the American Health Care Act, the Republican repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act.
Congress of the United States has an opportunity to keep a promise to the American people by repealing and replacing Obamacare. Obamacare has failed.
We need a system that's affordable for folks, a system that's accessible for individuals, that's of the highest quality.
The program that we've talked about, that the House rolled out last night, is a program that puts people in charge of their own coverage.
But not all Republicans in the Congress are on board, of course. Here's what a few conservatives had to say about this legislation.
We are divided on replacement. We are united on repeal, but we are divided on replacement.
This is instead a step in the wrong direction. And as much as anything, it's a missed opportunity.
Do we need to lower the bar in what we believe as conservatives simply because a Republican is now in the White House?
Well, proponents of the bill can't afford to lose more than two GOP votes in the Senate or about 20 in the House and still pass the bill for the basic reason there will be zero Democratic support for getting rid of Obamacare. Joining right now is Republican Congressman from Ohio, Jim Jordan, and former RNC chair and MSNBC political analyst Michael Steele. Congressman Jordan, let me ask you about your sense. Are you a good vote counter on the Hill?
Well, we'll find out. We have our House Freedom Caucus meeting here in about 10 minutes, so we'll know better then. But the draft, the leaked draft, our team was against that. I don't see much significantly different in this particular piece of legislation. So my hunch is there's still strong opposition amongst our members, but we'll know here in a little bit when we have our meeting.
Well, Obamacare did a number of things. He created Obamacare, but it also extended coverage of Medicaid for poor people up to a higher percentage, or a percentage higher, of course, than 100% of people in the poverty line. Would you like to get rid of all that, just basically wipe the slate clean?
We'd like to do what we told the voters, Chris. There was an election on November 8th. This was a huge issue. We told the voters we're going to repeal it, not what this bill does, which says we didn't tell the voters we're going to repeal it but keep some of the Obamacare taxes. We didn't tell the voters we're going to repeal it, but we were going to keep and expand the Medicaid expansion. And we certainly didn't tell the voters we're going to repeal it, but we're going to start a new entitlement program with this long, fancy name called Advanced Refundable Tax Credit. So that's not what we told the voters. We make this job way too complicated. Our job do what we told the voters we were going to do. We told them we were going to repeal it and replace it with a patient-centered plan that would actually bring down the cost of health care, which Obamacare is taking just the opposite direction. So that's what our focus is, bringing down the cost of premiums.
Well, back when you didn't have the White House, it was easy for you to pass these measures. You could pass it over and over. How many times did you vote to repeal just to get rid of Obamacare? About 60 times? I mean, you weren't able to get... You were able to pass repeal measures. Can you do that now? If you had a straight up or down vote on the House right now, could you vote to repeal Obamacare, plain and simple?
Chris, 15 months ago, we put on President Obama's desk a repeal piece of legislation.
I'm talking about now.
What we're saying is put the same piece of legislation on President Trump's desk. I mean, so what are Republicans going to put?
So you would have the votes to do that? You would have the votes to do that?
I think if you put the bill on the floor, you would probably have the votes because every single Republican in that Congress, last Congress, voted for that.
I know what they did last time, but now that was when you knew it wasn't going to be signed. You know the reality's changed. Now you have a president who will sign it. It has consequences now.
Chris,
it isn't just posturing.
You're describing what Americans hate. Politicians who say one thing when they're trying to get elected and then get in office and do something else.
So you don't think that was the case?
What I'm saying is it shouldn't go on, and that's not the position of the House Freedom Caucus. The House Freedom Caucus is let's do what we told the voters we're going to do. Let's do what they sent us here to do. When they gave us the privilege of serving them, let's do what we told them we were going to do.
I like the purity of your thinking, and I think a lot of people in the Freedom Caucus have that purity of thought. But I don't think the majority of your caucus has that, because I think politicians posture when they don't have to suffer the consequences. You know that. The best vote to vote for is the bill that doesn't pass. Then you're covered because you voted to posture.
It's not just purity of thought. We don't think this proposal is actually going to bring down the cost of health insurance. We don't think it's going to bring down the cost of health care. We got working class families, middle class families who have fewer choices and higher costs. We want to change that. We're convinced this bill doesn't do it. And our plan, repeal it, replace it with a different, with a replacement piece of legislation, that does it.
Well, Obviously, Michael, that's not going to be the position taken by Paul Ryan, because he's afraid as hell of be standing out there naked with no bill to replace it, having gotten rid of all those people on Medicaid expansion, all the people that are on health care who never had health care before, and take it away from them?
That's the cold reality that Paul Ryan and the leadership has, because in a real sense, they have to listen to Congressman Jordan as well, because they made the case to the American people. It is part and parcel of why the election turned out the way it did. So you have, on the one hand, using this whipping boy of going out and repealing Obamacare, but then you put forth legislation that doesn't actually do that. So now, if you're going to try to keep the caucus in place, you're going to also try to reconcile the fact that, for example, 20-year-olds are going to be worse off under this bill in terms of what they were getting from Obamacare. Those are the harsh realities that the Speaker and the other Republicans in the House are going to deal with after 8 years of going down this road.
Congressman, let me ask you a couple of questions. Sure. I know where you stand, and you are a purist, and I agree. I completely accept your position, because I think I don't think it's going to pass, but it's got a lot of courage behind it. What do you make of this president right now? How he's performing, getting up at dawn with these tweets, accusing President Obama, his predecessor, of having illegally wiretapped him. What do you make of that kind of charge?
Well, look, I think the president is off to a start that I think the American people appreciate when it comes to the executive orders he's issued, the idea that he's doing what he told him he was going to do. Relative to the tweet and the wiretap issue, look, I saw a friend of mine, former colleague of mine, now Senator Tom Cotton, who said on Sunday that he doesn't think there was a wiretap there. I don't know. What I do believe is there's a deliberative process in place. You let the intelligence committees do their investigation on this whole big issue. If, in fact, more investigation is warranted, I'm on the Oversight Committee. We've never been shy about looking at issues, and no one, frankly, has ever accused me of going easy on my own party.
Yeah, I know.
I'm willing to do that if it gets to that point. But right now, let's let the intelligence committees do their job.
Well, wait a minute. You think it's all right for the President of the United States to make a declarative indictment of a private citizen or former president like that, accuse him of a felony, and then you casually say, oh, well,
Chris,
look into it?
Chris,
you have to have probable cause to indict.
I didn't casually say anything, and I'm not commenting on the president's tweet. What I'm saying is let the process work, and what I'm saying is Senator Tom Cotton, the guy who served our country, says he sees no evidence of a wiretap. That doesn't mean it didn't happen or did happen. All I'm saying is, based on what I know now, I don't know that it happened. Let's let the investigation work. Let's let Chairman Nunes on the House Intelligence Committee do his work. Let's let the Senate Intelligence Committee do their work and proceed in a deliberative fashion.
In other words, it was a fair charge by the president. It was fair for them to make that charge. Well, what
I'm saying let's have a fair investigation. I'm saying let's let the investigation unfold and we'll get to the facts.
Without evidence, you want to investigate. Why do you want to investigate?
Chris, this is part of the bigger, broader issue of this whole issue of what Russia, what kind of involvement they may or may not have had in our election, what took place there. This is part of that, with the leak that surrounds General Flynn. Let's get all that out there. Let's get to the truth.
Okay.
I'm all for doing that. And frankly, that's what we did on issues that impacted the former administration. It took a couple years before there was a select committee on Benghazi, which I happened to sit on. It took a couple years before I called for a special prosecutor in the IRS targeting of conservatives. So let's let it work.
Do you believe that President Trump is telling the truth when he said he never met with any Russians during the campaign?
I believe the president I believe he's the president of the United States. I believe him.
You believe him?
But I want to see the investigations unfold, and we'll see what happens.
You take him at his word. He met with no Russians.
Yes, I do take him at his word. I like to take the president of the United States, whomever that individual may be, and from whatever party that individual may be. I like to think that in this great country, we take them at their word when they first make their statement.
Okay, thank you, U.S. Congressman.